My dear friends and fearsome foes! Don't forget that if by 7 o'clock tonight you have watered all the farm animals, bathed the children and tucked them into bed, given your spouse 1 or 2 heartfelt kisses and are sitting down to enjoy a bottle of your favorite wine, that we are on air broadcasting across all nations in the 7 seas. Nathan has provided the ways to partake of our conversation in a previous post, and I must remind you that this 90-minute journey into the great unknown will cost you not a single cent. We have taken it upon ourselves to provide our thoughts and opinions free of charge to anyone with the willingness to listen and contemplate. As always, we wish you could all join us in the lounge, but as that is not possible, we ask you to send your questions, comments, compliments and sly smart aleck remarks in for Nathan to read in a deep baritone voice that he uses to let you know it is a viewer commenting and not himself uttering such silly nonsense. If you have comments for my eyes only, my phone is kept at a discreet and safe distance from the audio transmitter so I can read your comments without fear of your declarations of love being broadcast to the viewing public. If you wish me to read your comments on air, please preface your comments with "Kyle, yes, I love you dearly, but please read this next part aloud for the gathered throng to hear." Fill in whatever nonsense you have to say at this point. Okay. Heads up. Pajamas on. Doors locked. Set sail on an exciting cruise off the end of the world. It's a trip you'll never forget. As always, in all sincerity, thank you for being part of the show. We truly appreciate you tuning in and being with us.
Oh my gosh.
What in the world?
That was Kyle's Facebook post earlier.
Who sang it?
Oh, the computer.
Really?
That was cool.
I couldn't hear most of it, but what I picked up was really strange.
I'm getting embarrassed listening to
You're starting off being embarrassed.
Right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate.
it. It took me by surprise. I was like, wait a minute, that sounds familiar.
So the computer read that?
Yeah.
That's just so strange.
And we're live. Hey everybody, welcome to Jabber Jawn. I'm Nathan Moore. This is Steve Moore. This is Kyle Hogg, and we're here for you. Whether you're watching on Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook, we can see your comments here on our Discord server. So feel free to comment and let us know what you're thinking, and maybe we can riff off of your ideas. We come with nothing prepared. Just psyched to be back together again. Good to see you.
Good to be here.
Good to see you.
Yeah, very nice.
Yep.
I had your hot dogs last night.
I saw that picture.
Yeah, I sent you a good
Was
picture.
it? Did it work?
It was delicious. The only thing that was wrong with it is it wasn't Nathan's hot dogs. It was a cheaper version.
Yeah.
Times are tough.
I have a much sadder story.
Actually, I heard your sadder story because I went and refiled my business license.
Oh my God!
So
You ran into
It was
her?
the talk of the town. Yeah.
Isn't that funny? Oh, that's funny. Well, I'm glad I didn't make it up. It was terrible.
So what is it? I haven't heard it.
You haven't
I
heard
heard the story and I said, I bet Dad was crushed.
I was. I mean, I had built it up. I described Jane came over.
Okay.
And she had an hour to spend, and so I said, I'll fix you a hot dog. And I got in there and I had it all. I had been watching the show to see what it was like, and she called, and so that all set everything in motion. So I'm going into the kitchen to make her the hot dog that she's listening to me describe on television. And I get in there and I take that Hawaiian rolls out. Well, what I've been doing is just been reaching down, breaking them and pulling them out, and it's nighttime. Well, this time I opened it up and pulled it out, and they were covered with mold.
Oh no.
So after you scrape that off.
So I tried that.
After you turn all the lights off, it says they're better in the dark.
If it had been a male, I think I would have done that. But I couldn't do that to Jane. So I had to go in and explain to her that they wouldn't be. So I had some regular bread that wasn't moldy, and so everything else was the same. And it was good, but it wasn't It wasn't what I was wanting
Right.
to do.
It wasn't as advertised.
Well, I'm glad she made it back to work the next day.
She survived.
It was funny. I haven't had relish on a hot dog for so long. That picture you sent, that looked so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
relish
hadn't
on
either, and I bought some just for that.
Mm-hmm.
It does add a little bit to it.
It really.
See,
really
I don't
does.
give
That's sweet.
people, I will not give people an option for chili when I offer them a hot dog.
Right.
Because I think that changes it from a hot dog to a chili dog.
Right.
So,
Right.
if you want a chili dog, ask for one, but don't.
Sauces might be about to trigger some sounds. These cats are full of themselves today.
Because hot dogs always get a round of applause, don't they? No. How
I don't even
corn
know
dog?
how he triggered all those sounds. Thank you. Well, thank you. Yes, also cued his own introduction to the show here. Well played. Well played.
Do you like corn dogs?
I never really developed a corn dog habit. or
Don't
anything.
even tell me this.
No. So do you put the ketchup and mustard?
I'm not
or whatever?
against them. I mean, I like them all right, but I never really relished them.
No. If you make a corn dog, do you decorate it with the condiments or do you dip? How do you do that?
I dip.
Dip.
And I make a mean corn dog.
You make one?
Yep.
Oh,
Really?
Here's the culinary tip of today's show.
Where do you get the
just,
sticks from?
we have them. They're like skewers, just like wooden skewers. You can get them at Food Lion. Any grocery store will have them, and you can easily find the batter recipe on Google. But the trick is you pour the batter into a tall glass.
Oh.
Because if you try to do it like in a bowl or something,
Right.
it just doesn't work. But you just get a nice tall, like pint beer glass or something, fill it with the batter, then put the hot dog on the stick and dip it down in the glass.
Man.
That's the secret.
And then you fry it.
And you fry it. Yeah.
There's a
I-
dip lip. You just add some bourbon in the cup and shake it up. You drink that.
At the end, just wash it down.
Gosh, I never had a homemade
I never
corn
made.
dog.
Oh.
I never
Well,
made one.
let's do it.
I never made a corn dog. That's weird.
It's I mean it's the
I
kind
was
of thing
never
you
around
convince
them.
yourself you can't make. Like
Yeah,
How long do you have to cook it for so you know it's all? I mean, do you cook the hot dog first, or do you not cook the hot dog?
Sauce is about to step on another keyboard over there.
so you can't train cats.
You can't train cats.
So you wouldn't.
Grayson was over here last night, Lex's son, and we were talking, and he was wondering whether he should get a cat or a dog, and I told him I thought he was too young for a cat.
That's interesting.
A cat, if you're getting a cat, you're like, you know what, I'm not going anywhere else. To a certain extent, like I was like, if you stop at a rest area and your dog gets out, you call the dog and continue on your trip. If you stop at a rest area and your cat gets out, you live there now.
I think you did that once. Didn't you?
I've lived there a couple. I've traveled with cats. I know what I'm talking about.
And how did you end up in
You ever see a hobo with a cat?
But also in reverse, if you don't live at the rest stop and you live at home, you can leave a cat. You can just put a bunch of food out and go away for the weekend. You can't do that with a dog.
Great point.
So it depends if you live at a rest stop or it's like a real like an address we can get mail.
That is a great point.
Yeah.
Cats are way more self-sufficient. You can't just leave a dog locked up in the house for the weekend.
Well,
All right.
Well,
also, how old was the son that was over here wanting a cat or a dog? Like young?
18,
No.
19.
Because I notice young kids, they're as like really young. They're as rough with a dog as they are a cat. Like a dog is more sturdy. Like a cat, I've seen kids just, especially like my cat, they just grab it and fall on it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The dog doesn't mind, but the cat's like, why am I trying to be killed all of a sudden? But if you're 18 or 19, you should probably know better than that. So.
Right, yeah. No, I was just thinking he should have a little bit more wanderlust in him than getting a cat. I probably should get neither as far as that goes, as far as traveling goes. But a dog can be a traveling companion. That's my basic point.
Yeah.
A dog is a classic archetypal traveling companion.
Travels with Charlie.
What's that?
Steinbeck's Travels with Charlie.
Oh, what's that?
Steinbeck went on it's a really famous book. He journeyed like around the United States for like, I don't know, 6 months or something with his dog Charlie. Really good book.
He actually did it.
Yeah. But the book came, and of course, it's supposed to be, it's what is true, but then I've read like the true story, like the stuff he had to leave out. He had to make it, a little bit more interesting or take out bad parts. Not bad, but boring parts. But
I've had to do that with some of my life. Now, I wanted to.
oops,
What happened?
good to go.
I'm trying to, figure out people. And
The first love text has come in.
I was wondering about your framing of how your brain works. So I think you have a very interesting brain. But one thing I just wanted to pick up on and follow up on your last bit of conversation.
Okay.
When you looked at him and said, it's a very famous book, there was a certain little, like a comma, you felt it. There was a comma
I'm still
that
recovering.
said that, everybody else has heard of this book. You must be a fucking doofus. And then that was hidden very well by the way you talk.
Well,
Couch.
the thing is, I've been holding on in for 2 weeks since he gave me a beard. Yes, I can grow one.
Oh, we're holding these in and letting them out when we need them.
Ding ding, round 4. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Here we go.
are.
And we
Head
did not
to
know
head.
we were at the end of this whole series. I said we couldn't do 18, but now we're pissed off at each other. Here we go. It always happens like
Blood sport, folks. Jabber John.
It's-
Blood sport.
it's going to get ugly, and there's not a thing we can do about it. It's,
Carl chimes in with excellent book and a quick, fun read.
Yeah.
Everybody knows.
Even the bearded people.
Hey, Heather, welcome to the show.
everybody knows.
Fothy says y'all should do a cooking show one time.
Yeah, we should.
Well, we do that every week.
Speaking of shows, I come to realize that this April 20th gig that we've been promoting for Bobby Day and the YMCA benefit is on a Thursday
Really?
from 6 to 8.
Thursday. Oh, I didn't
So
know
maybe
that.
y'all have to do Jabber John live from Gypsy Hill Park somehow.
Wow.
Maybe you guys could be the 2 guys from the Muppet Show in the balcony heckling us.
That's a good idea.
I'll have to create a balcony for you, but I know some people.
Sitting up in the balcony being attacked by squirrels while we're up there. So it's Thursday the 20th? I don't want to miss that. Okay.
420,
Oh, I see.
6 to 8.
6 to 8.
It's a Thursday.
That's crazy.
Be nice to mix it up. Haven't been outside today. Is it warm out there? Is it nice?
Not warm. Nippy.
It still gets chilly at night.
But
I can't wait for that to stop.
Yeah, I agree.
I am so ready for spring. I always am at this point.
Yeah.
Are you a windows open sleeper?
Air conditioner.
I got the AC too, but I like it when it just starts to get a little bit warm. Before it's sweltering hot, I like to have the windows open.
We have a good reason to have to do it because our bedroom is in the attic.
Oh,
So
bats come in.
the heat it gets stuffy
Yeah.
up there. Attic vibes.
What's that book?
Oh, it's Bobby's birthday.
You probably read
That's why
Flowers in the Attic.
today
Didn't you?
is-
Didn't all
Right.
girls read that? Did either of y'all read Flowers in the Attic? Or was that a young lady's book? I don't even know what it was about. It was scary, wasn't it?
I can't remember.
What was it? What were we talking
That
about?
sounds
Flowers
familiar.
in the Attic.
B.C. Andrews or something. Somebody, right?
God, I can't remember. I remember it when I was in high school.
Is that a record too?
I think it was like these girls lived, or their parents kept them in the attic. I can't remember. I don't know what it is.
Was that Aerosmith?
That's toys in the attic.
Toys in the attic.
I remember in art class in like 10th or 11th grade or something, we had to redesign an album cover. And I was never very ambitious at school. But so they said I picked toys in the attic. And I just put different toys. I remember friends were like, you didn't change anything. You just put different toys.
Wait, what was it?
You had to like, our project was to design an album, like an already existing album. You had
Who
to,
was your teacher?
Miss, not Dunsmore, Miss,
There was a couple of them.
oh, Miss,
There was a Miss Ox. That was her maiden name. She got married.
God, I know this woman so well.
She
Miss
was there a long time.
Oh, gosh.
And then there was another one, younger one that I don't remember.
Oh, my God. I know this. I know that this is one of my favorite teachers. Now I can't think of her name. Miss, oh, my God, I'm embarrassed now.
That's all right.
She's passed away, thank goodness. She won't see
It might
this.
come back.
Well, so we just had to do an album that already exists.
So you take an already existing album and
just
create
do
a
a
new
new
album.
cover
That's a
for
cool
it.
assignment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And you got to pick the album?
Yeah, you can do anything you wanted.
All right, kids, assignment for next Thursday. Everybody make a new album cover for an already existing album.
Yeah.
Feel free to choose any of mine if you want. I might even update my Spotify with
Man. Yeah, you can play them on your window back there.
Yep. Oh, I had a question before
Miss
Salsa
Dunnings,
was
that was
walking
her
on.
name, Miss Dunnings. She might have been in junior
What?
high. Miss Dunnings.
Oh, yeah. Miss Dunnings was a nice lady.
Yeah, she was very sweet, very nice
Yeah.
lady. Took a lot of interest in us
Yeah,
kids.
she was there for a long time.
Yeah.
Boy, that sound was probably nice that was a noise I'd never heard him make. He was like, whoop, and then slapped my hand.
You must have been good. You probably took an art class, didn't you? Wasn't that like you had to take one of those 6 weeks classes, everybody?
I'm a terrible artist. Like art class, I think of visual things, crafting, drawing. It's been one of the banes of my existence. I just have no natural talent for color coordination.
With your creativity, though, you can't fake it through.
Oh, I do it anyways. But it would have been so great to have a knack at it,
Right.
being in the business I'm in, because we've, the whole career, especially when we were younger, making your concert posters,
Right.
making your T-shirts, making album covers, designing websites, doing the streaming stuff.
Right.
If I had some graphic design chops.
Yeah. Remember, art class was fun because we would always go a little bit too far. Me and Bill Willett and another friend. One of our art projects was we got like the old film, like the Super 8 or something. We bleached all the color out of it and then drew our own little pictures on it.
Wow.
And we did the Dead Kennedys' Holiday in Cambodia.
Holiday in Cambodia.
But we had to play it for the class. We knew Miss Dunnings was not going to approve of all the cussing, so we just stood by the speaker every time the cuss words came on. We'd be like, we'd all like fake coughs and covered. But then we actually showed it. Actually, Jimmy Kivligan's band played at the Armory one night, and he let us show the video. They opened up for the Findells, and we showed the movie there at the thing. And then, like a moron, I didn't know what was going on. I was so far behind in the times and knowledge. But one time I got this piece of paper and folded it up and like made like this little sculpture thing that I just wrote stuff on it. And one side of it said support social diseases. And I didn't even know what social diseases were. People were like, he can't write that on the thing. And I was like, why? I had no clue what I was even talking
Just sounded cool.
And the teacher was like, Miss Dunnings, or whoever it was, like, it's all right. Just I don't think he's a moron. He doesn't know what he's putting on there.
He thinks it's a band.
He can't help it.
It's like the old days. Just let it be. It's all right.
Robin says, I am a fan sleeper. You know that you know what that is it's not just the cool breeze, but the white noise. And I am completely dependent on white noise for sleep these days. We have one of those little machines that has a fan inside of it, and it's all just generating white noise for sleeping.
Man, fan is good. Fan sleep. Now, does she have the
Fan sleep is
Does she have a
nice.
still fan, or do you have one of those that you just get the rotating?
I do like the oscillation.
Yeah, that's
quite a bit.
yeah.
I wonder what that is. It's like it's caressing you or something.
Yeah.
It's like rocking you to sleep. Do you have white noise in your room?
I have that fan that you gave me that makes that sound.
Oh. How'd that thing do?
It doesn't it makes more sound than it does heat, but it does work. If I leave the door closed and I come in, it's different. It's about 5 degrees warmer, and that it just seems better in there. So I like it. All right.
Wish it was a little more powerful. Luckily, spring is here.
Yeah.
But
One of the scary things about fans, though, which me and my ex-wife, we used to sleep with the fan on all the time. And then she started having like these facial problems, and she went to the doctor, and she came out, and she said, "I have
facial problems?
yeah, like her face, like it was just getting like weak on one side." So we went to the doctor, and she came out, and she said, "I have Bell's palsy." And I remember I almost blacked out. I thought it was like cerebral palsy or something. It was like just half your face is like paralyzed. So for like 6 months, her face just hung down. But I was like, "What? Why do you have it?" You know, after I woke myself up off the floor, I said, "Why do you have it?" And she said, "Well, lots of times it's caused by like direct wind on one side of your face." And she slept closest to the fan. And so I was like, "Turn that damn fan off. I don't want to get it now." So I slept for a long time with my face facing away from the fan.
So did it get fixed?
It took a long time. She was on TV then. She had a craft show. She had to go on, like, she couldn't, like, if she'd take a sip of a drink, it would just run down her side of her face and stuff. It was really scary. I mean, she was very brave and very, she didn't let it bother her, let it slow her down.
Was it the fan?
He didn't say that's what it was, but he said that is one of the things that can cause it.
Huh.
I never heard of such a
I've
thing.
never heard that either.
Be careful out there, Robin.
But so if you have a direct fan, you might want to get the oscillating fan so your face isn't getting the
At
full.
least it hit both sides.
Yeah, if it hits both sides, you're all right.
You just
I guess you could sleep with your COVID mask on. That might help you a little bit.
Speaking of the white noise thing, I've discovered in the last couple of weeks, because of our show, because I go on that YouTube app thing on my TV and to watch the show, but I also started watching these hour-long videos of music, just go to sleep music, and I started with birds,
soothing.
and then they have the nighttime. And I was wondering how much of that, because, like one of them will say, "You'll be asleep in 5 minutes," which is not true with any of them, because
6 minutes later,
6 minutes, yeah, turn that off.
just throwing.
People are lying again.
Damn birds.
And so I beat every one of them so far. Of course, I never watch it when I'm sleepy.
Right.
But
I wake up in the morning and start watching that
Yeah.
BS.
yeah, I just
Sleep for 5 minutes,
have-
my ass.
It's great driving sounds.
I have my coffee and then we go on out. But I just was wondering how many people actually use that service. And it's free. It's
I've
really
listened to it,
nice.
yeah.
I do like watching the birds.
Yeah, you had that on when we were at the birthday
Yeah.
party.
Well,
That was cool.
it's
The photography is stunning.
Exactly.
It's just unbelievable.
yeah. And I see some birds I just didn't think could be possibly on the planet.
All around
I
the
mean,
world.
every color scheme you can think of, God has gone down into the tropics and played around with it. It's
Oh, this is
great.
something you're supposed to watch. You close your eyes and you hear their songs and stuff.
Well, that's a good point. How can you watch the birds if you're going to sleep?
Right.
But I think some of them are for sleeping. They're the ones that show the nighttime sky.
Okay.
But then the other ones are for relaxing.
Okay.
They're for
Relaxing.
anxiety,
Right.
which is what they create with the
Right.
rest of the television today.
It's the antidote.
My God, you cannot watch the news anymore without.
We don't. Yeah,
It's
I
horrible.
read the news every day.
I mean, it's just like if I'm a doctor, I would prescribe no television news. Live in a fantasy. because reality is not going to make it with you.
Yeah, I wonder what begets what, because it must be the stuff they're reporting on that's so troubling. So that stuff exists, I guess.
It does.
But then it creates a lot of that stuff that
Well,
it reports on too.
there's a
by-
whole. We have to change a lot of things. Like one of the typical things that bothers me is there's a program. Like if I go into a school and shoot a bunch of people, before that, the 15 minutes following the announcement of that happening, there's going to be a 5-minute segment that where they come in and try to figure out why the person did it.
Right.
And then it goes into the politics of supporting it, or is it because of the gun laws, or is it because of
Right.
mental health? And we go wherever we want to go. But what we've got is just we need an explanation for something that can't be explained, which is mental illness. I mean, there are so many reasons for mental illness. You just can't do it at the end of every murder. There's just too much out there to even think about that we can solve it. But in this 5-minute news spot, we want an answer.
Right.
And we
We
never,
want to know what you think.
and we never get that answer, the one that is going to satisfy us,
Right.
because it's not out there. You just can't. Every human mind has gone down in these different rabbit holes, and where somebody pops up with a gun, it's just, I don't know. But I know it's okay to try to figure all this out, and you can with a number of cases, but you can't look at one situation without any other data and say why it happened. So why are we even discussing that right now?
Right.
And then there's always the issue of, do you glorify the killer or the perpetrator and not talk about the person who just got, the innocent person who lost their life? I mean, but it's not done well, the whole process. And that's part of that entertainment package
Right.
that the news has become.
That's the
Right.
thing. Back when it was 30 minutes to an hour a night, you had a lot of stuff to get through, and you could just do who, what, when, where, and but now we got 24 hours a day to fill, so we're all like, why?
Yeah, I used to ask the question, what if one night there was actually 35 minutes worth of news? Well, what would you do? Because every night, it's just remarkable, there's exactly 30 minutes of news.
Right. How does that happen?
And 18 minutes of it.
What would they do?
And 18 minutes of it can be commercial.
Right,
It's okay.
right.
How do they do that?
It's remarkable.
That's
They
something.
call in around 5 or like nothing else can happen.
Yeah.
We are full.
Right.
We are full up today.
Exactly.
We're gonna have to put that off till tomorrow.
Yeah, that cannot happen today. We'll let it happen tomorrow morning.
That's the hand of God right there. There's been 30 minutes of news. We'll just keep it calm for the rest of the day.
But the result of all that is the news is depressing. And I don't care if that guy is cute. Who's that guy?
I'm not
The
sure which
most
guy you're
famous.
talking about.
The most famous.
Anderson Cooper.
No. The gentleman on, not NBC, but
George Stephanopoulos.
no. Good try. Closer.
He's just all the newscasters.
Oh, the real good-looking one.
Tucker Carlson.
Getting
You're
colder.
tasting men. I'm just not
You're
sure
getting-
about it. I'm
Getting
just
cooler fast.
starting to doubt your taste in men.
It's
Kyle,
like is
gotta
it like
say.
NBC or like a,
It's
See, you watch the network news.
Yeah,
I'm
is
talking
it,
about the network news guy that
network, okay.
everybody watches. But actually, they watch the older African American gentleman, not like him. But I can't think of their names right now. They've gone blank.
I
Walter
don't watch
Cronkite?
any of them, so I can't. I'm
It's,
no help at all.
Oh, I can see both of their faces, but I don't have a name.
just the Harrisonburg channel or
Yeah, channel.
Heather says Anderson is the good-looking one. Magpie says Dan Rather, but
No,
I think that's a different day.
Magpie's dating herself. I don't know where Dad is.
I haven't
either.
watched local. My
Oh, what
parents used
was-
to watch the local news all the
I
time.
can't even think of his. You don't know? You don't watch the news? Well, somebody out there has got to watch
Yeah,
the news.
we're waiting for the chat to save us on this one.
It's the real good-looking guy, and everybody thinks all the women liked him. All 5 of the women that took care of my mom, all 5 of them had a crush on him.
Wow.
They couldn't wait for the news.
And this is a guy from
As
Harrison.
depressing
they had,
as it is.
They had to watch him.
This is someone
powder.
from the Harrisonburg channel or the Richmond channel?
It's
or-
the Channel 3.
Okay. Gosh, who would that be? Man, I don't know.
Gosh.
I wish I did. I would be curious. I wish I watched the nightly news regularly, just to know how they do handle a lot of the stuff going on in the world today.
It's has to be pretty slick, and it's redundant too, because it's not like they scoop each other. If there's a report on Ukraine, both of them will have a report on Ukraine. A lot of
Right.
times they'll use the same footage.
And same language.
Yeah.
In the,
Oh,
in
it's
the
the
text
same.
they
Yeah,
read.
it's the same.
Garnet
Yeah,
just distributes it
Yeah.
on down to the little guys.
yeah.
That's so true.
I can't. The guy from The Office, the good-looking guy from The Office, John Krasinski. What is his name? Did you ever watch The Office?
The American version,
Yeah.
I definitely did.
Is John? What is that his name? John Krasinski.
Oh, the guy that now does
He's with Pam.
movies and stuff.
Yeah.
Jim from The
Yeah.
Office. What was his?
But
real
he has
name?
a half hour. I'm not sure if he's on it, but he does a half-hour news show every night. It's just good
Really?
news.
Just good news.
Yeah, it's nothing. He said it's just so much. Like you said, it's so much bad news, and I'm not sure if he's on it or if he just helps produce it or something. But it's 30 minutes of news that makes you feel like you turn it off and you're like, I'm glad to be alive. You know, like you just feel that the world has a reason to keep on going. You know.
That's good.
That's good to have.
Seems like everyone should at least have a segment like that.
Yeah.
They usually do that at the end. They usually have one
A
little,
feel good piece.
the last one before they sign off.
That's good. So have y'all been? Do y'all have any thoughts on this Ukraine situation? Is that something that you follow or avoid, or too much to
It's just-
too overwhelming to?
I'm so proud of those people. Just the stamina and the courage and the determination is to, not. I can just see myself laying down, telling the armies, "Don't hurt me." For those people to just stand up and just keep standing back, I couldn't admire them more for doing that. It's just, that's like. I mean, even though it's terrible news, to me it's almost like good news. Is there's still people around that still, believe in their country and believe that they're, fighting the bad guys. And I'm sure, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, the average Russian soldier wants to be out there just as little as the Ukrainian does.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a terrible situation.
Such a sad realization. Just realize that war is just perpetually possible, because it's so easy to believe that we've evolved past that we've realized how senseless, how horrible, and that we just wouldn't engage in it as humanity anymore. But that's just probably never. Well, I mean, not to be that pessimistic, but it's certainly we have not evolved past it yet.
No, I haven't really had that feeling. Well, I grew up during with Vietnam too, so I never have had that feeling. But I certainly haven't had it lately, not with Russia and North Korea ever threatening. But the threat of it is always there. It's I don't think we have to give up. We're still early in the game. You think about history, this country's not very old.
Baby.
It's a baby.
Little
So
teenager at least.
there's still a lot, and everything is changing so much. The way we are going to be doing things in our children's lifetime is going to be different than the way we do them.
Right.
So the important thing is that we care about each other and take that kind of caring into the future. not let us get lost in the other world of AI and all that. We can maintain a lot of what I would call Christian values as dealing with each other, which we easily lose throughout history. But it's possible we can still get better.
Right.
I'm not giving up yet.
It's so surreal to watch. Like for the last few weeks, Ukraine and Russia have been fighting over this city called Bakhmut. And I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, Bakhmut. But I see all this aerial footage and stuff. And at this point, the city is completely destroyed. It is just
Flat.
ruins.
It's
It's
flat.
flat.
That's
It's
all
like
that-
skyscrapers there. But there's still, the fight continues over Bakhmut. And I'll pull up my Twitter and they're like, Bakhmut holds. I'm like, well, that's cool. I'm glad Bakhmut holds, but Bakhmut is not Bakhmut
There is
anymore.
no Bakhmut.
There is no Bakhmut.
you
But they
can't-
continue to fight over. I don't understand. There's territorial stuff going on and strategic, geographical advantages and stuff like that. But you just see that, and you're just like, these people fighting over a completely destroyed city is so mind blowing. And it's just
Yeah.
illustrates how horribly strange the entire thing is.
I mean, there just has to be a point where the Russians, I said this about Vietnam, I said, if nothing else, we'll get out of Vietnam when enough of our young men have died. And that's exactly the way I thought it went down. You know, we took the rhetoric for a while, and then we just said there were too many homes affected. And that's going to happen in Russia, too, because you're basically sending a young man over there to die, and then you have the rest of your life to try to figure out why. And that answer's not going to be easy to come by.
But it's also, I mean, I don't know why I feel this way, but I just read, I read on the internet and stuff, that the Russian soldiers are being sent out with like weapons that barely work and like not the proper clothes or something. It's like, I mean, even though they're the bad guys, you still are like, oh my God, these poor guys, they would rather be doing anything than do. But they just get, they round them up and send them out there with a weapon that, is 30 years old, hadn't been oiled and greased and stuff. And it's like,
It's so hard to believe.
yeah.
Hard to fathom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I guess in any like sports or anything, you draw a line. This is the good guy. This is the bad guy. Even there's a bunch of 19, 20-year-olds playing basketball. But this is the bad team. This is the good team. The same with war. You pick what side you're on. It's just, it really, when it comes down to it, it's a bunch of good. I mean, there's plenty of bad people too, but there's just a bunch of good guys losing their lives for just ridiculous reason.
Apparently, the breaking news story today is Russia took a Wall Street Journal reporter into custody, accused him of spying, pulled him out of a restaurant. So they're using brave reporter to be in Russia at the moment as an American, anyways. But I don't know if I know, like, I listened to Putin's speech. And according to Putin, he is at war with America right now. That's his framing. His entire speech was, we have to completely reconfigure our society for a wartime footing. We have to get, there's this whole moment he dedicated to, like, we need housing built near the factories that will be making the munitions. He's like restructuring society, sort of like we did in World War II, where our factories, if you used to make cars, now you're making tanks.
Right.
Like, they were converting. So, and it was, I was just sitting there with my jaw on the floor, just like, oh my God, this is his huge address to the country.
Right.
And he's talking about how he's at war with America right now, and we have to restructure our entire society to get in this like it was all just beginning. And I'm not trying to, be an alarmist or anything like that, or I'm not trying to engage in hyperbole here, and not trying to have a depressing conversation. At the same time, Russia thinks it's at war with us right now, and that's not a conversation to avoid either. I mean,
Well,
it's a thing.
I would add this. This is hard to talk about too, but as soon as you're providing all the weapons, you can't just say, I'm providing all the weapons, but I'm not fighting in the war.
Right.
I mean, that's hypocrisy right there.
Mm-hmm.
We are actively involved in killing those Russian soldiers.
Right.
I mean, we're bragging about how much money we're giving them to buy newer arms that are better than the ones he's going to be making in his little old factories that have peasants living near them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that doesn't impress me. I don't think he's going to win with that. But getting our new stuff but yeah, I see when you said that about what Putin was saying, I'm saying, yeah, he is. Mm-hmm. Who else is he fighting? Right. Who else is paying for all that?
Right.
And a lot of people are helping. I'm not saying that, but they're helping because they're part of the whatever you call what we are, a group of organized countries to fight off a common enemy. But we're providing most of the support and economic and military, not in arms, but what's the difference? When they start, I just think we've lost, I don't think a lot of people know the difference between a billion and a trillion.
Right.
I think once you get to a certain number, they don't mean anything to anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Not just me. I always thought it was just me. I don't think anybody knows how much $1 billion
Even
is.
someone that has $1 billion.
Oh, hell no. They just know it's enough.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of money, and I'm hearing it around town, like for little stuff, like the federal government had $13 million to help with reading programs somewhere. All right, I'm making that up, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
$1.3 million was given. Well, what are you? $1.3 million. What are you going to do with it?
Right.
They're going to buy a whole lot more cardboard for. I don't know what's your game plan, because you could do a whole lot of good with $1.3 million.
I'd love to be in charge of a $1.3 billion budget to help Stanton. I feel like if Jabberjawn was given $1.3 million to
million or
improve
billion,
Stanton,
you just said.
well, either.
Our
It's
viewership
all the
was
same.
It
skyrocketing.
didn't matter, did it?
What's the difference?
Yeah. I'm like that. I don't know if I know I have $1 million or $1 billion.
What would you do
I
first?
can't remember which one it is.
If you were given $1 million to improve Stanton, what would be your first way of thinking about that?
Wow.
Or to help Stanton improve it, however you
I
want to
think
describe
a
it.
giant wall.
A giant wall to keep Fishersville.
and especially around some of my favorite fishing
Well,
holes.
you got my vote.
Yeah. And just keep those other people out of there. So. But that's a good
giant wall between that trout and that branch that fell in the water over there, so it can't get away.
Oh, that would be, where would we go with that? I would take care of the housing situation.
Which housing situation? Low income housing.
Low income housing. I would try to reward. I would try to create a middle class that was admirable, that liked themselves. So, because I have this thing where the latest thing I've been thinking about doing would be to start a restaurant what we've got in this town, with these new restaurants, everybody's going after the same economics part of the spectrum. It's people with money, people with disposable income.
Right.
It's not people that are just trying to get by. So you've got that whole thing going on, but all the restaurants are appealing to the same thing.
That's a great point.
And so could you provide a service, and this would be a nonprofit. There's not going to be anybody at the top making the money, so you don't have to pay him all. And you are involved in all kinds of things. So I want to be able to make one of my lunches, baked beans and hot dogs, serve it for $2, but have a nice waitress come out and service a common worker, or somebody that, in other words, that can't usually afford to go out to dinner, or they can afford fast food. Why can't they be sat down and treated nice for a while? Because it's a lot of it's about how you're treated when you're in a restaurant or something. And you like it when people take care of you. You like to be taken care of. So, and you know your waitress. Back in the old days, that's the way all the diners used to be. They were places to get your day started with friends. And we don't do that enough anymore.
Do you think that just the old diner model doesn't work anymore? Like, couldn't a family-owned diner or something make its living
I think you
providing
could.
that, or
It's-
people
it's-
that
I think-
don't have disposable income are so used to not eating out anymore that there's actually some kind of hurdle there?
I think there's a hurdle in both. I think both are true, and plus the times have changed. We don't have as many going out to a diner before they go to work. Most people are just going to work, and so that whole social thing is different now than I think for a lot of people. And diners just didn't service that for enough, I guess. But I mean, when you talk about a nice town, you could do a whole evaluation of a town by how good their diners are, or used to be. I don't even know if they're,
Now diners are kitsch.
Well, it's so
and
weird, it's like-
expensive.
Right.
Food's really good, but it's
food's.
Living in New Jersey, there's diners everywhere. Like they look like, they're right 2 blocks.
Families.
2 blocks from my house was a privately owned diner.
Yeah.
And me and my ex-wife would go in there all the time. Like you said, we knew the waitress's name. We'd come in, hey, I haven't seen you for 2 weeks, very friendly. And when my wife left, and I just didn't have anybody, I would go down to the diner, and at first they were like, "No, where's your wife?" I was like, "Oh, she left." And I would go down, and when I would go with my wife, you were just like, you and me and my wife and the waitresses, and you'd see people you'd see all the time and wave. And then when I went by myself, I noticed, like, on Saturday and Sundays, if I'd go get breakfast, how many single dudes were in there just to hang out with other single dudes and talk, and just like you're having a breakfast, like you're not with a spouse, but you're just there. I'd come in, hey, how y'all doing? Just a bunch of guys sitting at the counter eating breakfast by themselves. But like you said, it made you feel like you were welcome there, and
It was the same idea of a local tavern or bar. Does the same thing, and we need that.
Yeah.
You don't get that from television or AI or anything. So other people. Another example of that, where I would take that same lunch, and you would call me up if you were a caretaker and you're taking care of a 95-year-old woman over in Hillcrest, and I would come out there. I'd send one of my people, or I would go out there and I would show you how to fix that lunch, or I would just come and fix it. And the whole time I'd be talking to you, and I'd be talking to your person. In other words, caretakers get lonely too. And that's what in other words, it's all about socializing and getting to know people, and looking forward to seeing them. And of course, I'm a really good-looking guy, and a lot of the women like to see me come around for about 12, 13 seconds.
Well, the thing is, you actually did Meals on Wheels. Do they allow you a certain amount of time to sit and socialize?
First of all, your Meals on Wheels, that was the main thing I saw that you were giving them. the meals weren't that great, but
Right.
we often heard that a lot of times we're the only person they see all day.
Right.
And I
Well,
saw.
was there like you had to be in and out in half an hour, or could you stay
Oh
there
no,
for?
I took my time.
Okay.
It was a volunteer thing.
I imagine not even a half hour, like 30 seconds, just dropping it off, and
But
here
you're
you
allowed
go.
to. But you're allowed to hang out.
Oh, I would.
Socialize.
Some of them don't want to talk, and some of them don't want to see you. But a lot of them really look forward to seeing you, and
Right.
and you develop a relationship with them.
Right.
I've helped save lives. I came in one time and a woman was having a heart attack, and
Oh wow.
so if I hadn't come, she might have died. Well, so I think she died anyway, but that's all right. No, I'm just kidding. She didn't die.
But like Meals on Wheels allows you the time and if you have if you want to, you can build a relationship and hang out and talk to these people and stuff. Because like you say,
Well, you
that's
can't
like
stay forever.
Well, that's like you said. That's much more important than the food.
He's still here.
He won't
The
leave.
Meals on Wheels guy came, and
Does he ever? How long does he usually stay? He's been here since Wednesday, and
Can you send 2 meals now? Because Mr. Moore still hasn't left.
he seems pretty lonely.
His talk is driving me crazy. Oh my God.
that's the other. We can even flip it on its end. We'll get really personable elderly people and socially dysfunctional Meals on Wheels delivery people, so they can uplift the Meals on Wheels delivery person.
There were people that be volunteering. There are lonely people out there. But, yeah. So, I have all those ideas from things I'm doing, but it's all about getting more socialization involved,
Right.
and especially with elderly people, where I see, being in a nursing home and things like that, that it's just a lonely time.
Mm-hmm.
I am so lucky to have so many friends and family around that I can bug,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't usually work that way.
I read
And
this-
even for me, I'm going to run out if I live long enough. You know what I mean?
Run out of.
Friends.
Mm.
Eventually, when you hear that person's 98 years old, there's nobody at their funeral that they know. There might be a couple. There might be some grandchildren, but all their friends, everybody they grew up with is pretty. Well, I'll tell you what. If they're still alive, they're not coming to my funeral. I'd tell them to stay home.
One of the most telling things that I've ever learned about just how much you need interaction. Oh, I'm gonna start crying. Ooh. When my dad was really sick, he didn't want to be a burden on my mom, and so there's a place out near Augusta Health where you can just you go to die.
Hospice.
Yeah, and so he went out there. He told my mom, "I know I'm a burden on you. I just want to go out there and pass away." And he was there one day, and he said, "I don't want to die like this. I want to come back and be with you, no matter how much of a burden I am. I want to be with you." And people don't want to be alone. But when he went, we were mad at him, like, "Why are you going out there?" And then when he got out there, we were like, "We knew you didn't want to die alone, you big dummy." He was there one day, and he's like, "Oh my God, this is no way to die alone," So he came back. I was sort of proud of my mom for letting him to go. It's almost like it taught him a lesson, you got that dumb idea out of your mind now, come back here.
Oh.
But yeah,
Yeah,
people
that
don't,
would
it's
probably
like
be-
you said, being alone, people don't want to be sitting at home
No.
alone and,
And they don't want to be a burden.
right.
I know both very well. But I see that all the time in all kinds of situations. And in other words, all these things I'm talking about are addressing that's in the background of why we're doing it. And everybody that would work there would have that in their mind, and that's what creates that energy that
Right.
goes through the whole area. In other words, not all diners are nice places where people meet, are they? There has to be some type of heart in there.
Right.
And there has to be a sense of family or love. That's a
Right.
word people use. There has to be something going on that pulls people in, and that's what your dad needed.
Right.
He needed
Yeah.
to be with his family.
Yeah.
It seems just such a shame that doesn't happen organically, because it seems like just a reasonably priced family establishment that has that love and dream in their heart or whatever would provide that, but it's almost like not a viable business model anymore, just
Well,
to have it be organically achieved.
Yeah. You know what? My mind just jumped over a couple spaces, but it's really interesting. I think I'll go ahead and say it. I was talking to a friend today about merinos and whether it was going to work or not, and if they were going to open back. And
The original Marinos is exactly what we're talking
well,
about.
it just hit me when you were saying that, is that what the man that is trying to do it now wanted to recreate was what we've been talking about. But you don't recreate that. You can't recreate that. It has to evolve holistically out of the experiences of the people.
Right.
I mean, I went through 4 or 5 years of being a nominee to, like, if you asked me if I knew some guy that hangs out at Marinos, and I was, or do you know Marinos? My line was, they know who I am, but they haven't accepted me yet.
Right.
And I'm a school teacher, and they thought school teachers were the bad guys. So they had to put me through a ringer of tests, and eventually one day they
This culture war didn't start yesterday, kids.
no. And I'm usually on the other side, because in my world of being a teacher, I was the redneck. But in the world of Marinos, they were the rednecks.
Right.
So it was, I enjoyed it all. But, you just don't walk into Marinos and find the family.
Right.
And you really never do that anywhere. And I'm not really talking about Marinos. And I'm not being critical of the man that did it. I think his heart was good, and I hope it still works. But it's not something that you can recreate
Right.
very easily unless you have certain other things that
It's a very real thing. That
Yeah.
when it happens, everybody with a good mind would love to recreate it, but you're right, it can't. That's not
And
how
when
it
you're
works.
paying $9 for a beer, you're gonna have trouble getting it.
Right.
And that's why all these breweries don't make it. Some of them make it because they have a whole lot of the other stuff. But when you're making that much money off of people, it's hard to think of themselves as being part of the family.
There's a conundrum too in terms of a lot of that, in that most restaurants are staffed by young people because they're willing to work for such little money,
Right.
but they don't have the capacity to welcome you.
No,
Right.
They don't even know what that means.
No.
Making you feel at ease or
Right.
anything, unless their spirit is just really special,
Right.
and I'm sure that happens. But in general, for them to, you think about Arlene and Beanie or whatever, and just what they just very naturally were capable of giving you is hard earned.
it's exactly right.
It comes with time
Right.
and big hearts.
Yeah. But you see that. I'm going to change the subject a little bit, back over to the Meals on Wheels. But you see that with the caretakers. They're so good at working with people.
Yeah.
But
What
what I've
amazing
noticed
souls
is that a lot of times they're alone. They're not seeing enough people. And the people they're seeing, I mean, the courage that they have to take on people that they know are not going to be with us as long.
Oh,
They're dealing with people at the end of the spectrum. And I think that's very brave, because you're going to give it away. And I think it's philosophically powerful of how you view life and love, and I have a lot of respect for that. So I'll go hang out with them for a while, show them how to fix a lunch.
It must be, and I know you have a lot of frustrations with the medical stuff. It seems like is it the because whenever it seems like nurses and stuff are such extraordinary people that
It's unbelievable.
do such a tireless, in a lot of ways selfless caretaking, and it always seems really inspiring and amazing. But at the same time, the system is such that you can be so angry at the whole establishment. It's like, how does that?
Well,
you
you nailed it. You nailed it. That's exactly what we have going on. You just, all you have to do is go out to Walmart and you'll see the problem. You go to Walmart and they got people that are taking your money and giving you money. They call them cashiers. And then they have
I've heard of these.
Yeah, there's 3 rows of them, but 2 of the rows don't have any people in them. They only have 3 people working now. But then at the other end, they got about 6 rows of machines.
Right.
And you've got these people in there that are saying, oh, I will never use that machine. I want
And
to.
it's not because you can't figure it out.
No, that's part of the reason, but that's the reason they keep bringing up. But that's not the one. The reason is we need people.
Right.
The classic example, the best example I can give anybody, and everybody will agree, is try to make a telephone call to anybody and try to talk to a human being.
Right.
And you'll spend all morning. If they decide they don't want to talk to you, you ain't going to talk to you.
Right.
You're going to get 16 people in 45 countries that can talk every language but English.
It's amazing too, because if you're calling to upgrade your plan of whatever it is, they got all the time in the world. Oh, we got somebody right here. But if you want to downgrade, if you want to give them less,
Or if you
suddenly,
have a complaint, you're
if
a
you have a
lot.
complaint,
So they just put you in that thing.
if you need
So,
help,
we've already arrived at a place we never wanted to go. And if you think of it, going back to the Walmart example, the thing there is we need people greeting people.
Right.
That old person they were feeling better about their day, and that person was smiling at you and being nice, and you're starting off good.
Right.
Why would you get rid of that person?
right?
And then the machines are the same thing. The machines save you money, but you don't need to say what is happening. If you look at the whole picture, is nobody's making any money except the machine, so nobody can go to the store.
Right.
So the people that would be the cashiers are also later in the day your customers. So we're kicked them out of one part of the system, but we still want them to contribute at the other end. They don't have the money to do it,
Right.
and your machines are not going to the other stores. So
Right.
it's a losing proposition philosophically, but it makes money in the current moment, and that's what's killing us.
But it seems like we're only at the beginning of that trajectory.
Well, that's what this
Robots are absolutely going to do everything.
We were about 3 episodes ahead of the world, if you might remember. But now they're talking about. I talked to this guy. He's got some fancy name like a car or something. But I was
Musk, Tesla.
yeah, one of those guys. But I was talking to him the other night and I was telling him about some of this stuff, and he said, "Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, he's going to write something up or something."
Right. That's
King,
good. I'm glad you're on it,
Well,
because it's not okay.
I'm glad he's on it.
Right.
I don't have any power, but I did talk to him, and he did agree with me that this AI thing, because that's what I'm
Just gonna
talking.
put it on pause for a second.
Yeah. What?
Just put the whole AI robot thing on pause.
Well, we need to. Yeah, exactly. Well, I was a little bit more adamant. I wanted to kill some people, but he knows
He talked you down.
I exaggerate.
have a friend
He
like
knows
that.
I tend to exaggerate.
Well, it's almost like we're a good age difference apart, but I think the young kids, it's just they're so used to not dealing with people. Like I'm like you. I appreciate going in and just some poor person has been scanning groceries all day, which is like, how you doing? You try to make some little comment to her and you have a 2-minute conversation. But I think kids now are just like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to get out of here. So I think it's switching more like to the people that are going to be around longer. Just,
I'm sure you're right.
yeah.
And that's sad.
But they don't.
Right.
I mean,
There's not a good side of that. That's a sad story.
right.
Mm-hmm.
But it is like sometimes I'll go into the food line and just buy something, and the cashier will say, "Oh, I've never had this. What does it taste like? What is this? Is this good?" It's just, I haven't talked to anybody all day. And it's like it does liven up your life a little bit. It's like,
yeah.
oh, this is good. You should try it. Open it right now. You want one? Like, no, I can't do that. Well, you should try it. But if you just scan it yourself and you go home, oh, this is good. I wish somebody else knew about it. But I think that's just the way, and it's I've gotten more that way too during COVID and stuff. You just get used to being alone and just doing stuff yourself.
Day drinking, eating too much.
Yeah.
What? COVID's over?
But another story I was thinking about when you talk about nurses. This will probably make me cry too. 99.9% of my friends don't know this, but I had a heart attack a couple years ago.
Wow.
It was related to diabetes. So I go in and I was like, why are you saying I'm having a heart attack? Like, because we're doing the test, you're having a heart attack. And I was like, no, I'm not.
So what was the first thing that happened? Where were you?
It was at work one day, and I was like, oh my God, I feel terrible. I just went out and walked around the parking lot. And
What was the terrible feeling?
like I was dying. But I was like, you don't want to admit it. I was like, oh, so I just walked around the parking lot and I kept working. And I hope no friends are watching.
You grabbed your stomach?
Because most of my friends don't know about this. I was just,
Oh, your heart?
It felt terrible. And I just said, oh, I didn't know I thought it was something else. So then me and my wife went to a baseball game. And we would always sit in the grass. It was a beautiful baseball park. You could sit in the grass. We had hot dogs and beers and stuff. I was like, oh my God, I can't hardly breathe. We gotta go home. So she's like, we should go to the hospital. I was like, no, I'm fine. So then I don't even remember this part. She said she woke up and I was on the floor, like I was just like crouched on the floor. She's like, we're going to the hospital. So she took me to the hospital in the emergency room, like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I spent the night there, and then they did some tests and stuff, and then they're like, oh, you're having heart attacks. I'm like, no, I'm not. They're like, yes, you are. And then I started having one like right there in the hospital. So they helicoptered me over to another hospital that could do this surgery. Oh God, this is gonna get me upset again. But there was a nurse there who was in charge of like me when I was there. And so she kept telling me I get off, and I think it was like 11 o'clock at night. I get off at 11. God damn, I'm gonna start crying again. She said, I get off at 11, but I'm not leaving this hospital until I know you're okay. And so they took me down to where the helicopter was going to come. This is like 2 o'clock. And I look, and the nurse that got off at 11 was sitting there watching me.
Oh,
When they took me out, she gave me a thumbs up.
oh.
So she stayed 3 hours after her shift
Isn't that something?
to make sure I got out of there okay. And that's something I'll never forget.
Oh, yeah. That's a beautiful
I
story.
just looked back, I was on this stretcher, and I looked back, and she was...
Good for her.
But so there's a lot of people, like you were talking about, nurses and caregivers and stuff. It's something in there. I mean, they're special people. They really.
Well, that's the irony of that whole thing. Every time I've been to the hospital, I'm overwhelmed by the love and concern of nurses and the doctors and in general. The people that I come in contact with are always wonderful people.
Yeah.
But the system is just like those machines. they don't listen, they don't care, and they'll do crazy things. And the people that are the doctors and nurses, they're victims too.
Yes,
They can't control it if they wanted to. And they,
Right.
you can see it in their eyes. They don't like being that person.
Right.
I don't think many of those soldiers really want to kill people.
Right.
Yes, the paperwork and the bureaucracy and the insurance, they can't,
It's
they,
just
you know,
gotten,
they can
it's
even,
getting crazier and
Yeah.
crazier too. And it's. I think we're heading for something bad.
With just the automation and the bureaucracy, the red tape.
I just think it's not working the way we're designing it, and part of that is simply said, we don't have the stop gaps to keep things from running out of control, and if it makes money, there's not anybody saying there's more important things than making money. There are lots of bigger issues than that. And we don't have anybody doing that at the level of the higher level. We have it at the human level, but we're not back up. But here, the decision, the businesses, the big business, the CEO. I mean, how we can have a society where the head of a bank can take out $15 million or billion, it doesn't really matter. And then the next day the bank goes under. That's called robbery. He should be in jail.
Golden parachutes.
And the golden parachutes. How did we let that happen? And those people are down in Boca Raton hiring people like me to do their laundry.
Isn't that part? That part.
Dirty laundry.
Isn't that part as old as civilization? That the rich and powerful had lived in a different world
I think
than
the rich
rest of
and
us.
powerful knew who they were. We don't even have any identities for these people. They're a lot of times they're very nice people on the surface, but they're getting the benefits of something that's nefarious, and they're just using it.
It's almost like we always talk about the 1%, and that's like a catchphrase these days, the 1%. But it's almost like the 1% is too big. Like in the past, we had like 0.0001% were the rich and powerful, and they were in the public eye, and they had like a social responsibility. Like, so they would build museums, or they would build, like their legacy was an important part of society to a certain extent. But now the 1% is like just millions of faceless, nameless people disappearing in golden parachutes to some world we aren't even allowed to visit. I don't know. It's the first time I've ever thought this, but maybe the problem isn't that the 1% is such a small number, but maybe the problem is it's not smaller. That when we had only a few rich people, they were held to account in a different way.
Could be.
It's also more annoying now because, like in the old days, like when the train barons and the steel people, you sort of knew about them, but you knew their name. You didn't know what they were doing. Nowadays, we have to see all the stuff about them, and it's annoying. Like in the old days, you thought, well, if he built the railroads, let him have his money, or he's running the steel mills in Pittsburgh. Let him have his money because it wasn't in your face all the time. Now
Right.
it's like, oh my goodness.
Right. Did you hear what Carnegie tweeted?
Yeah.
What a jerk.
Well, it's funny because when I lived in New Jersey, there was a library that lived up the street from us. So it was right up the street from us. Tiny little library. It was built by Carnegie. They would have plaques on them. He built them a lot of libraries. It was built in like 18 or 19, like right around the beginning of the 20th century. Like you said, they built something that was like a thing that would stand for 100 years. That we've done something good for the community.
It was expected. You almost
Yeah.
had to. Did y'all know that from like 1944 until the mid 60s, the tax rate on the top 1% or whatever was 90%?
Wow.
Wow.
For a long time, like for decades.
90%, but what? How many loopholes was it for they
It
could
was
get
like
it
90% over a certain amount of money or something.
Oh.
But it was a huge, like, something that is unimaginable
Right.
today or something. You know, you would think anybody advocating for something like that would be a downright communist. But it was actually during some of the most prosperous times of our country. It was with Reagan and stuff is when it really started coming down, and now it's like an unfathomable thing. Most people hear that. I heard that fact and had to Google it. I was like, no way, that was true. Sure enough, I was like, tax rate U.S. in the 50s or whatever, 90% for the richest people.
Maybe that's the reason they built and donated so much, to get those donation deductibles.
I would rather build a museum with my name on
Right.
it than give that much
Right.
money, which is great. I mean, it's a whole thing.
Yeah. Well, if we have a 30-second break, some very important birthdays coming up this week. A longtime fan, Kim Carter-Rowley, we've mentioned before.
Happy birthday,
Her
Kim!
birthday's
Happy
April
birthday,
1st.
Kim.
And my good friend Margie McShane, her little son Gabe, turned 6 this weekend.
6.
Hey,
Yeah.
Good
Gabe.
job.
He's having his first school birthday party where he can invite kids from school.
Oh, my
over,
goodness.
So that's gonna be very fun.
Have a good time, Gabe. That's great.
So does he get to pick who comes?
He invited. She said she was very shocked that he invited everyone.
That's good. You don't want to not invite.
And she said,
somebody.
trying to explain to him, maybe, hopefully they won't all show up, but
Good for him.
yeah.
All right, well, I would like to nominate that we do something that we always forget to do.
Oh, that's right.
A leaving song.
Well, it doesn't be a leaving song, but I'd like for you to do a song.
What's the? I don't think we talked
You got
about
an
this.
old Woody Guthrie song?
Dust that
land-
guitar off. We haven't heard it for a couple of weeks now.
Some union songs, some organizing, sing-alongs.
Pete Seeger?
Yeah. What's the there's many of your isms that have not only become a part of my life but a part of my show. Like there's nobody that watches my shows that don't know about a leaving song. What's the progeny? Is that the word? Or what's the origin story?
I was thinking about that the other day. I had this little bedroom, and we would sometimes gather there after school. This was talking about high school years. So we were driving, and we would be 4 or 5 guys. Most of them, well, all of them, you probably would know. If you saw them on the street, you wouldn't stay on the same side of the street necessarily, but you would recognize them. And they would come over, and I used to buy older records, but I always had some records. I had a thing where when I went to the dentist, I would reward myself by going to the record store and buying a new 45.
Gosh, I gotta
You
start
got a
doing
huge
that.
record collection. How many times did you go to the dentist?
Well, I don't have any teeth now.
That's small
And
price
people,
to pay.
Well, people think it's because I have bad teeth, but I just have a good music collection.
Does it need to be pulled? No, we'll pull it anyway. I need a new 45.
Exactly.
The Beatles just dropped one.
The Beatles.
Just
I Want to Hold Your Hand. From there, I bought it that day.
Yep.
Yeah, it took a molar.
It was worth it.
I love that. I love that idea.
So, at any rate, we would play the newest. I had the newest stuff. I had the Kinks.
Oh man,
Well, what's a kink? Well, listen to this and you'll know.
great band.
Yeah. So we would listen, but then we'd head on out and go somewhere to caused some problems with somebody, and so we got to the point where we always had to have a leaving song.
Oh, wow.
We'd all walk out. We did the turkey trot. I can't do it tonight.
You can't do it tonight?
Well, you know, you can do it. Get up.
I don't know what
son.
the turkey trot is.
Well, get up.
All right, we'll walk
You
them
can
through
do it, Kyle. You just put your hands behind your back. And you got it. The man has done a turkey before. Yes.
Wait a minute. So this
Is that a Twitch clap? Oh, there is a stop button, by the way, just so you know.
wait a minute.
Now, where did that
See the,
music? Where did the
see the
snapping
thing that
come?
looks like tape deck controls or VCR above the keys? Play, pause, stop.
Did
Yeah,
she
there's
hit
a
the
stop
clap
button.
thing?
Yeah.
Pip has
Really?
been ruining this show.
That was-
Pip,
no,
you are
that was
banned from
perfect.
all future Jabberjohns. Never again.
Perfect, but yours it was not perfect.
No, it
That's
was
Kyle's
a
story.
very intrusive, rude. As a host, I apologize for that. It was-
But I want to get. So you would put one final song on, and you would all walk out of the room. Like
Yeah,
that?
it was called a leaving song. You wouldn't do a ballad. It had to be the right song. People
really
could
got me going.
people could veto it.
Be like,
If it didn't work, we had to go back in, sit
Oh,
back
wow.
down, and start. Somebody else would do a leaving song.
God, you had some great traditions back then.
A classic one was that you could never go wrong with was the Association. Along Comes Mary.
Oh, Mary. Yeah.
That was a great leaving song. But it had to have a beat to it because we had to dance. We had to dance our way out of the house.
See, that's a part of the leaving song story I feel like I missed for a while. I know this now because people remind me on the show because I think I've asked you about it before in some context. They're like, well, according to your dad, it's got to be a dancing song. Because to me, it was always just sort of like the leavings, whatever it was. Like it just summed up the show.
Well,
or
I mean, I think
night
that
or-
could be true later on.
Right.
It's
You-
to
the
But I
me-
like that. I actually like that limitation. It's good.
Well, I have the visual image of Rick Cook doing the turkey trot out down, and that's a great image.
That
Well,
is a great
but it's also different because most of the time when you hear a leaving song, now you think it's 2 o'clock, the bar's closing, you're going home. You're playing it at 10, just getting ready to go out and start trouble.
we were beginning. That was a pregame warm up.
The leaving song.
Oh, right.
The
It's not-
leading
it's not
song
the
starts the
capper.
good
It's,
times.
like,
Yeah.
okay, now we're ready.
We weren't shutting the place down.
Yeah,
We
so-
were closing the door to Steve's bedroom.
Yeah, so in your world, leaving song has a different image.
It was.
different meaning than
It was a
most
lot
people.
of.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
It's like leaving the locker room to go into the first quarter. Kind
Exactly. Exactly. Let's go out and play the game.
Right.
I love it.
So do we all have to do the turkey trot while you're playing this song?
If you're still here when I'm done, I failed.
I love that. That's great. That's a great line.
Oh man, he's breaking out everything. This is a leaving song.
No, this is my orthodontist thing. I too have made a deal with the tooth devil for my music.
But I pull my own teeth with this
Right,
machine.
watch.
Right
You might want to step back. Pip, you might want to walk on the keyboard.
here. It costs me much less when I suck my own teeth out of my mouth.
Sorry, the car is hitting that. Let me move the lapel mic up a little.
Do you think we'll ever have a sousaphone on for the leaving song again?
Boy, that would be nice, right? I hope he comes back. I've forgotten how it feels to touch. Lately I've remembered too much. Now as winter quickly tightens the binds, the only open window is online. I keep seeing such good people in such situations, in such grave pain. Sometimes I have to remind myself what my grandma would say. Oh, it's not the end of the world. Oh, it's not the end of the world. Boarded up storefronts, more storms on the way, but not for the wind, not for the rain, but for fear of a friend who may be lost in despair. Everything happens every day somewhere. And when it's my house that's burning down and it seems like it's all gone up in flames, sometimes I have to remind myself what my grandma would say. Oh, it's not the end of the world. Oh, it's not the end of the world. Hard to tell from here who'll be there when the dust settles, when we clear the air. All my friends are lunatics, so they'll probably survive. Hell, they'll probably be glad to be alive. That's what happened on the Titanic. On the Titanic, the musicians played. Sometimes I have to remind myself what my grandma would say. Oh, it's not the end of the world. Oh, it's not the end of the world. Oh, it's not the end of the world.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
Wow.
My goodness. It took me to a lot of places.
Well, that's a great line about the Titanic.
Yeah.
The musicians played.
I've always wondered if that's truth or if that's just the best story, the most inspiring
It's a true
story
story.
ever told.
It is a good story.
They talk about courage and doing your job and like giving yourself for others. For that to be true, that's
It's inspiring.
sailor salute, to those guys.
It rings true to me as just knowing a lot of musicians in my life. I know a lot of people. It's exactly what they would have done.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
No doubt in my mind.
I love it. I love it.
Now, you remember the day I wrote that song, probably.
I remember telling you a story, and you said I ought to use that to write a song. Next day you had a song.
Dad was visiting Nana, and he was like, oh, I was complaining about something or another, and she was like, oh, it's not the end of the world. It was right at the height of the pandemic, and I was like, that's the song I got to write tonight. And normally I'm not that kind of writer where I'm just like, whoa, that seed just got planted, and that's going to sprout right now. It was just that pure. Well, I'm pretty sure Timing, what, 8:30 on the nose.
Look at that.
Getting good.
We've got this
Boy,
down to a
this is-
science now.
Fine-tuned machine Jabberjohn's becoming.
And we couldn't
People
have
won't
done-
even recognize us.
And we couldn't have done it without the cats adding a couple of, like 45 seconds extra with the applause.
That's true.
Look at you hiding back there.
What a mess.
Oh, good.
She's trying to act all sweet now. She hears she's banned from the show. She's like, well, maybe I can save this. Maybe if I hit the right button now,
Oh, we should have had applause for your song. We didn't have any applause for your song.
we're mad at the applause. Everybody, we love you so much. Thanks for joining us.
Happy birthday,
We'll-
Kim and Gabe.
We'll see you next week. And
Take care, Joe.
Yep.